Say, man, top of the evening to you. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone and tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in. You know, without you guys, I wouldn't have a show. And I'm editing my privacy settings. I've not figured that out yet as far as on some of my platforms. I want to thank you for taking the time out to hang out with me. You know, you guys mean a lot to me just as well as I mean a lot to you. And the thing that I like to do is come to you and bring the truth about any subject matter that I speak on. Now, I know there's some people that don't like the way that I deliver what I deliver. So what I'm going to ask each and every one of you is to push the share button on this video. Share it to whatever groups you want to share it to. Share it to as many people as you want to share it to. But I think that you need to pay attention. And for all of my Yates lions that are out there, I'm about to tell the truth. I wear these colors with a lot of pride right here. Forgive me. I wear these colors with a lot of pride. And I've been a Yates lion for, oh my goodness, man, over 40 years. Over 40 years. Only place I ever wanted to go to school was Jackie A. Senior High School. I knew where I was going to middle school. I knew where I was going to go to high school. And that was the home of the Crimson and Gold. And not the yellow and the red, but the Crimson and Gold. Tonight, I want to have a discussion. If you want to chime in, then you chime in. Last night, me and my teammate from high school, my man Quentin Smith, who was was second team All-State in high school. Played wide receiver, went to the University of Kansas, broke a lot of records. Some still stand till this day. And ended up going to the Chicago Bears. Also worked for the Minnesota Vikings as well as the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm correct. He's been a scout. He's been several different things. And the reason I'm doing this, because I don't like what some of y'all cats is running around here talking about. So, you know, when you run your mouth, then I'm going to show up and run mine. Who am I talking about, Yates Lions? There's this mystique around the Yates alumni base that we are super tight and we're the strongest alumni base in the country. On some days, we are. We are the biggest, the baddest. If you fool with us down there in Third Ward, the whole family will jump your behind. But some days we allow our own people to bring our school down. Last night, me and Quentin Schmidt, we did some interviews with, I think it was Fox 26 and KPRC Channel 2 in reference to this George Floyd field. Now, I want to give you a reminder. So what we'll do is we'll go in and I'll remind you of something and then we'll get into it.
Tonight, the Jack Yates High School has a new name in honor of George Floyd. Fox 26's Randy Wallace reports from Houston's Third Ward.
It's now official. This football field at Jack Yates High School will forever be known as the George Perry Floyd Jr. Athletic Community Field.
It is an honor. We don't take it lightly. This is an amazing honor.
According to those who knew George Floyd, he loved the Third Ward and attending Jack Yates High School.
He was part of the team that took them to the championship, so he absolutely played on this field.
I'm actually one of the last people who saw him here in Houston when he left to go back to Minnesota. I actually dropped him off. He loved this field. He loved talking about the state championships when he played football here. He loved reminiscing on those days.
Floyd's murder by Minnesota police in May of 2020 incited months of protests across the world and prompted calls for racial justice and equity.
We've had a very difficult, almost couple of years now going through this process, and so whenever we come to a place where there's something positive to celebrate, we're excited about it. We're excited about the fact that this is a place that he knew and loved.
George Perry Floyd Jr. athletic community field.
I sit and look, and they unveil the mural. All I could do was break down in tears like I'm about to do now because it's great. And I wish my mother was here to see this, But I know she's here in spirit. And, it says my greatest day of my life. And I thank everybody that had something to do with it. I do.
Renaming this field after George Floyd was made possible by 88 Chump, a local community planning consortium. Reporting from Houston's 3rd Ward, Randy Wallace, Fox 26 News.
That was a great day in 3rd Ward, Texas. George Perry Floyd died tragically on the corner of 38 in Chicago. Every time I go back and visit Minneapolis, I go sit on the bus stop right there at 38 in Chicago. There's still flowers out there. There's still remembrance of him in the forms of murals, and they're still doing what they call holding space on that corner. It's not gotten back to what they consider normal because the natives will not allow that. And if that's the way that they feel, then that's the way that they feel. My issue is not with George Perry Floyd. He was what we consider a fraternity brother, and he will forever be a Jack Yates Lion, and he will forever be in the fraternity of Jack Yates football players. On that particular day, there was a grant. A grant given, actually 2, from the NFL Foundation as well as from the Houston Texans, that totaled $450,000. There was also the giving of a turf field that was supposed to be laid at Jack Yates Senior High School, and the name of that field was supposed to be the George Perry Floyd Field. I want to share another screen with you because I want to show you the man that was instrumental in making this happen. And before I show you his picture, I want to acknowledge the Jack Yates National Alumni Association, who's a part of this endeavor. I want to acknowledge Change Happens, ran by Miss Helen Staggs, who's the fiscal agent of the grants. Also, 88 Chumps. And 88 Chumps was an organization created by his teammates, Von Dickerson, Gerald Moore, and I think Herbert Mouton, if I'm correct. If I forgot somebody, it's not by slight. It's just because I don't know. But I know those 3 guys. I talk to Von all the time. I had the opportunity to talk to Mouton this week. And now I'm going to get into this, and it's going to get serious. The man that was one of the people that was instrumental besides 88 Chumps to make this happen. Let's put him up. His name is Carl Davis. If you're familiar with local politics, you know that he kind of runs around to different churches, and he works hard for the Democratic Party, and that's his choice. I've stood side by side with this man on issues at Yates High School. Basically, those issues pertain to fighting for the maritime program, which was grossly underfunded, as well as fighting to get a new school when HISD was, quote unquote, putting us through the ringer. His name is Carl Davis. And I want to tell you that on December 14, 2022, this is the biggest snake that I've ever ran across. This is the biggest snake that I've ever ran across. Mr. Davis, ever since this grant was given, and it turned out that it was a matching grant, Mr. Davis has been very evasive as it pertains to being transparent. A lot of Yates Lions, and I want you to understand, we, like I said, biggest, baddest alumni base you could ever run across. I've said it in some songs. We the biggest, baddest alumni base. It's more than enough of us to come through and do whatever we need to do for this school. This year alone, our grass wasn't getting cut on the field. Our grass wasn't getting cut at the school. And two of my guys that I love to death, Alonzo Pierce and, my man Kevin Phillips, who I had the pleasure of blocking for on the junior varsity when I was at Yates, who was the quarterback. Alonzo Pierce and Kevin Phillips got together, and instead of trying to get the alumni to raise money to get a riding more, those two guys said to hell with it. Kevin called me, and he called our good friend John Williams, who's also a former Yates Lion, class of 87, was a quarterback. And Alonzo and Kevin got together and put up I think that more costs about almost $3,000. And in less than one day, they went bought a ride more. So now our grass can stay cut on our field. Our grass can stay cut on the baseball field. And our school is very well manicured now because of those two guys. Carl Davis, whenever you say anything about this George Perry Floyd field and this turf, if you are not on the right side of Carl Davis, he tries to avoid you and, make you look bad. I saw an interview he did last night because we had to put some smoke on this thing. And he said that I was angry. I was angry. You damn right I'm angry. Because I've been given an assignment by two former coaches, Ronald Mumphrey and Maurice McGowan. God bless them, both my coaches. And the assignment was simple. Gary Monroe, you take care of this school until the day that you die. So it's days where I've lost my health trying to make sure that this school was good. There were days where I got sick of the school and I walked off and I'm like, I can't do this anymore because it's a trying task to deal with with Yates Lions some days. But let me get into this story. There was a grant given, $450,000, and nobody told the community, as well as the alumni base, who has more than enough money combined to lay down 15 football fields. Nobody told us that the money that they received was a matching grant. I don't give a damn what nobody said. I'm going to come with the truth. I don't give a damn what nobody said. Nobody told us this was a matching grant. Nobody told us that you got 450. And in order for that 450 to be to be released to Helen Staggs, the fiscal agent with Change Happens, that we had to raise $450,000. What are you saying, Mr. Monroe? That we had to match the $450,000 in order for the NFL to release the $450,000 that was given. Why should Yates High School have to beg anybody for any money? Why should Yates alumni have to raise money for a school that in 4 years will be 100 years old? It's not the average 100-year-old high school. There is no other Jack Yates Senior High School in the world. None. This is the only one. It's a football program that has put over 27 guys into the pros, into the NFL. It's a football program that has more Super Bowl rings than most high schools in the country. 2 college football Hall of Famers, 2 Hall of Fame football coaches. But yet we're here today because that field that should be named George Perry Floyd Field, Community Field, may not get laid. And there's an innuendo. There's a lie going around that some people don't want it to get laid. That's not true. I listened to that interview that we don't even want to talk about all the sports. I mean, Robert, it would blow you away. It would realistically blow you away. I mean, Yates Lions have played in Super Bowls, NBA All-Star games. They've won 1 Super Bowl rings. They've won WNBA championships. Monica Lamb, 4-time WNBA champion. Back when the Southwest Conference was in existence, some of the greatest players to ever play in the Southwest Conference came from Jackie A. Senior High School. John Roper with the Wrecking Crew at Texas A&M with Aaron Rodgers at linebacker. Carvin Holcomb, Ricky Winslow that played for Phi Slamma Jamma with Hakeem Olajuwon at the University of Houston. We could go into baseball. Matter of fact, we could go into jazz music. The great Conrad Johnson was an alumnus of Jackie A. Senior High School. So there, when I think about it, we should be able to go to the district and say, look, this is what our kids need, especially athletically. Because who holds the record for most people in attendance at a basketball game, not high school, but basketball at the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas, the Jackie A's Lions. Consistently, my team played in front of, especially in the playoffs, in front of over 40 to 50,000 people every playoff game. We're just talking about my year. We're not talking about the other years. We're not talking about the Houston Chronicle article where they labeled Yates High School the team of the decade in the 80s. We're not talking about Max Prep, who labeled my team, the 85 Yates Lions state champions, the second greatest football team to ever play high school football in the country. There's a lot of money that's been made off of Yates High School. And back to what I was saying, this Negro here planned on making money too off of Yates High School and the George Perry Floyd Field. Who is Carl Davis to Yates Lions? Well, let me break this down to you. I don't have a personal issue with Mr. Davis. I have an issue with what he was trying to do with this football project. I have an issue with him making this totally political, to where you bring the Congress lady in who pledges $100,000 towards this field, and the $100,000 hasn't shown up in 18 months. Matter of fact, you need to raise $450,000, but the fiscal agent, which is Change Happens, says that only $6,900 has been raised. So why are you angry with Carl, Gary? Because I can smell bullshit from a mile away. I'm good at mathematics, Carl. I also know when somebody's trying to avoid situations. There was no transparency in this process. I don't care what anybody tells me. We gave information out to the community. We gave information out to the principal. Man, the principal is the principal of the school, and that's what she needs to be. But bringing her into something that really has nothing to do with her is not something anybody should do. Trying to intimidate the principal to go to community meetings to back up his foolishness, Mr. Davis, is not something that somebody should do to the principal of Jackie A's High School. Not only the principal, the assistant principals, and even try to intimidate the head football coach. And if you know Coach Thomas, you don't intimidate him. He's not going to move because you say move. But giving these people mandates. See, there was no community meeting scheduled until Quentin Smith, Gary Monroe, and John Williams started asking questions. And the reason that we started asking questions because our coach asked the question, when is the field going to be laid? 18 months. No capital gains project in place to raise this money. No serious efforts being made to raise $450,000. And people want us to be quiet. You had people reaching out saying that we shouldn't say anything. No, we should say something. Carl Davis wants to build this extravagant stadium situation or whatever it's called. Carl Davis wants a concession stand that he can make money off of. Well, if it's any money made at 3650 Alabama, that money will go to the school. But I want to ask if anybody who's been involved with this project, have you spoken to the football coaches and to find out exactly what the team needs? Well, no, you didn't talk to Coach DeGar. You definitely didn't talk to Coach Thomas. You just kind of said what you were going to do. Did anybody realize that we don't have a field house for our football team? Did anybody realize that said, well, you know, we need a brand new state-of-the-art digital scoreboard? For what? Ain't nobody come to no JV games back there. We need brand new bleachers. Why? We got brand new bleachers. Nobody sits on them. Nobody's talked to the people in charge of football to find out exactly what they need. Well, the three-headed monster, Quinn Smith, Gary Monroe, and John Williams started digging off into this thing, and we found some inconsistencies. So John has connections to the Houston Texans because he was working at the YMCA that the Texans are part of right there on Griggs. You know, when it first was open, I mean, he was there. He was a part of that organization. Quentin Smith has the NFL contacts. And actually, Quentin has read over tons of NFL grants, so he knows exactly how the process works. And Gary Monroe got plugs all over the country, especially in Houston. And one of my dearest friends, one of my biggest fans, is Hannah McNair from the Houston Texans. So we started digging off into this thing, and nothing seemed right to us. So we'll start with Gary Monroe. The numbers on the field, you know, this field would cost almost $1 million. And I'm trying to figure out why, because I was a part of a group. I initiated the process to have a field laid in Fresno at Mustang Park where the Fort Bend Seahawks, my good friend Spencer Johnson, runs that organization, him and his wife, Monique. Spence called me one day and like, man, I want to lay a turf field down at this park for these kids. And I made a couple of phone calls, put him in the right rooms, you know, over there in Fort Bend with State Rep Ron Reynolds and Commissioner Grady Prestige, and got him in the room. And Spence took care of everything then, and that field got laid. And I think that field cost $230,000. The turf was donated from the University of Houston. $240,000. So if we got donated turf at Yates, why is it costing almost $1 million? We're talking about used turf, which has a shelf life of about 10 years. So they played on it 1 year. It's been sitting up for 18 months. So you got about 7.5 years left of usage on a field that will be out, not being able to be covered, a field that will be out in the elements. And then after the 10 full years, you're going to have to redo that field. So I had helped and I knew the numbers. So when I saw the numbers didn't seem right. And the numbers that were sent out by Carl Davis. On that, Mr. Davis, on that document that he sent out, he said that a company named Hellas Construction is the ones that would lay the field. Well, that seems strange to me that you could know who the contractor would be without going through the procurement process of the local school district. Because once you donated whatever you needed to donate to the school, it became the property of HISD, and it would be on HISD's property. So therefore, any construction of any kind would have to go through the procurement process. And that's a process that you go through to find a vendor that can do the work that you need done. That is board policy. Well, the first thing Mr. Davis would tell you is that we were forced to use Hellas. I saw the documentation last night from a meeting December 8, 2021 with HISD official Yolanda Rodriguez in attendance in that meeting. And down close to the bottom of that document, highlighted, thanks to Quentin, it says something about the procurement process and how everything would have to go through procurement. So from day one, you've been screaming. Day one was not December 8, 2021. From day one, you've been screaming that you had to use Hellas. Well, okay, well, we're also seeing the document that shows the actual contract. And on the contract, basically, it's been agreed upon that you would use Hellas. So were you forced to use Hellas? Or did you not understand what you were about to sign? So here's the thing. I mean, people like, well, man, you calling Carl out, you making us look bad. No, we ain't making you look bad. I'm calling Carl out because Carl is the dude that wants to stay in front of the community, bumping his mouth. Carl is the dude that wants to stay in front of the community and constantly pitch lies and act like everybody's just against him. But this the same guy that called me one day and asked me to go to the Port of Houston because our maritime program was getting screwed around by the Port of Houston, who had invested in the maritime program at Austin and at Yates. You didn't have a problem calling me then. But now that we're asking questions about this field, it's a major problem. It's a major problem, and you don't want to tell the truth. You don't want to be forthcoming. You guys, hold on a second, man. Oh. So anytime we asked a question, we couldn't get a straight answer. No, we wasn't asking Vaughn. We wasn't asking Gerald Moore. We wasn't asking Mr. Mouton. We were trying to ask Carl. And he's saying that the reason this project is not done is because the Yates alumni could not unite to make it done. Ain't nobody finna give you their hard-earned money, Negro. And it looked like you on some scandalous stuff. I keep hearing that $25,000 was donated, but donated to who? Because the fiscal agent who gave us a copy of everybody that donated is only showing $6,900. So who did the 25 get donated to? Carl. Where's the Congresswoman's $100,000 pledge? Carl. Why would I trust this dude? Is he trying to pull something scandalous? I mean, he might be. I know that he had to separate from the city of Houston. Technically, you got fired over the summer after being there forever. The first time they were coming for you, Sylvester saved your job. But the second time, he couldn't save you. So they had to let you go, whether they let you retire or whether they fired you. But you know how the game is played. If they've been there long enough, they'll let them retire so they can get their pension. But technically, dude, you got fired. You got fired, homie. So my thing is, why would I trust a Negro that's having money problems right now, playing with a project that looks like you want to get some money off of it? You remember, Carl, the conversation you had with the board member where they asked you, man, just turn the money over to HISD, and you told you wouldn't turn no money over because you needed to make money off the concession stand? You remember that conversation? Do you remember that, homie? So was the school supposed to make money, or were you supposed to make money? But yet, throughout all of this, ain't no field been laid. And this field has to get laid within the next 5 months because they've had this grant 18 months. It has to get laid, or the 450 goes back to the NFL and to the Texans, and the turf goes away. When you never told the alumni base what you needed, how were we supposed to help you? You made amendment after amendment to this grant. And all the way back to May of this year, you knew that you only had a year left. And for the last 8 months, you still were not forthcoming to us. And the only reason that you've had any community meeting is because we started putting smoke on it. There was supposed to be a meeting on November 30th, community meeting where everybody could possibly come, district officials. You know, I could be there. Quentin could be there. But Carl, didn't you cancel that meeting the morning of the meeting? And then you rescheduled the meeting for December the 8th. The same night that the Houston Independent Board of Trustees meet. So there's no way in hell that our trustee over District 4, Patricia Allen, could be at your meeting as well as the school board meeting. It doesn't happen. And you also know that normally I'm at the school board meetings. See, you're saying that you've reached out to the community, but tell the truth that when Quentin said he was coming to the meeting, did you not send a text saying that you were not comfortable with him coming because of something he said on Facebook? And Quentin hasn't said anything wrong. You didn't want him there. Is it true that when Quentin got to the meeting that you had police officers in the back of the room at a church? Why you didn't have the meeting at Yates? Because you're ashamed to come to the school because we figured you out. Well, man, hold on, man. Who is this dude for real? He's Carl Davis, the one that screwed up our maritime program. You've been in, nobody knew or even had a clue or an inkling that you the dude that's been screwing Yates up to a certain degree. You the dude that's been making money on the slick, undercover. Say, man, go get your lawyer. Sue me, homie. Sue me. I'm going to say what I got to say. Tell them how you screwed up the maritime program. Tell them how you got in the middle of building Yates and you messed up everything. And that's why we ended up with this small school. You sure you want to come for me, homeboy? I know a little bit more than you think I know. And some days I'm going to let you make it until I get sick of you. And right now I am sick of you. You had your hand in the money pot when it came to Yates from day one. You manipulated a survey to get this school named what it was named. I didn't say Chump 88 did that. I didn't say Gerald Moore did that. I didn't say Von Dickerson or Herbert Mouton did that. I said Carl Davis did it. How did you come up with the names that were on the survey? You had two names in reference to George Floyd. Right? You had the name Pat Patterson, one of the greatest football coaches of all time in Yates history. One of the greatest football coaches of all time. And Roland Martin Field. Why would we name a football field after Roland Martin, who was in the band? And then when somebody asked about arguably the only coach in the school football history to win a UIL state football championship, the first all-black high school to do it, ended the season ranked number 2 in the country, in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, you wouldn't even include his name in the survey. Because if you'd have put that name up, bro, we'd have came out the woodworks, homie. But we couldn't come out because you manipulated that also. You've had your name, you've had your hands in the middle of Jack Yates for a long time. And you made a lot of money on the slick on Yates High School. And that's what you planned on doing with this field. I think that Gerald Moore and Von Dickerson and Herbert Mouton, those guys were sincere in what they were trying to do for their teammate who died a horrible death. Maybe some of us did not agree with the name. And I'm one of the ones that did not. With 27, at least 27 players that went to the NFL. And when I throw that out there, we're talking about, Al Dotson that played for the Raiders. We're talking about his son, Santana Dotson, that played for the Green Bay Packers. We're talking about Dexter Manley, 3-time Super Bowl champion. We're talking about at least 6 players that ended up playing for the Chicago Bears. And we're talking about one of the greatest 3-time Harlan Hill Trophy. And you don't know what a Harlan Hill Trophy is? That's the Division II Heisman Trophy. 3-time Harlan Hill Trophy winner, my running back, Johnny Bailey. I understand what happened to George, no disrespect. But he was a better basketball player than he was a better football player. And then somebody stepped on our legacy because it was the right time to pimp George's name in his memory. It was the right time to use him to accomplish your goal. You, Carl Davis, did not give a damn about George Floyd or anything that happened to him. You had your hand in the money pot. You were not like Vaughn and Gerald and Herbert. No, see, because the way that they feel about George is the way that we feel about Bailey. I bet you don't see nobody walking around here with no Johnny Bailey t-shirt on. You know why? Because if you do, we'll call his wife Cassandra and you'll end up in a court of law. She owns his likeness. She owns everything about him. And you know what? We make sure that nobody disrespects him in any manner. So I don't think those 3 guys had any ill intent. And after talking to Vaughn forever, for so many times, he just wanted something better for the kids of 3rd Ward. But Carl, why you didn't go to Sylvester and tell him build a football field at Emancipation Park? Bailey played in Emancipation many days. We all, somewhere down the line, was at Emancipation Park. Why you didn't go to the city of Houston or the county and tell them build a football field at McGregor Park and name it George Floyd Field? But you came to Yates and now you can't deliver. You can't raise $450,000 in 5 months when you could not raise it in 18 months because now nobody trusts you with their hard-earned money. You wanted this smoke. And I told you in front of Felonious Floyd and the other Floyd brother the night that they voted to name this field after George. If this comes back to Yates the wrong way, dog, you gonna have a problem. I knew then that it was not right. See, God gave me a discerning spirit, and I knew it wasn't right. But I didn't know all this other stuff about you, how you been screwing over our school the whole goddamn time. Now, I know some of y'all, that's y'all partner. But everybody ain't your friend. And everybody ain't your partner. This dude needs to be stripped of his crimson and gold. And I got several people telling me, Monroe, you a fixer. You know how to fix problems. Walk away. Let it fail. Let them fall flat on their face. But you know why it's so hard for me to do that? I see those kids' eyes light up knowing that turf coming. I see those 8th graders that I talk to all the time that can't wait to get the Yates to practice on that turf field. In order to be a high school football player, you're going to have to be a student first. So they already know you got to do it in the classroom to even set foot on that field. But this scandalous Negro who will not take the background, who will not back down, is still soliciting money from the alumni base, knowing that he doesn't have the time. Time is his enemy, not Gary Monroe. Time is his enemy, not Gary Monroe. From the outset of this, I never trusted you, Mr. Davis. You're a dirty SOB. And the more time that we have to dig, the more we are seeing. And the only thing, this is where we're giving you the pass. We're just not throwing your ass up under the bus fully with what we know. And you should thank Quentin and John for that. Because if it was left up to me, shit, I'd have threw you out there a long time ago with what I know. If you're upset about a interview, any one of y'all, be happy John and Quentin kept me from under them from in front of those cameras as long as they did. Know one thing. I can work with anybody, but I'm not going to work with a fraudulent son of a bitch any day of the week. I'm not going to work with somebody that's trying to mess over children any day of the week. It's not going to happen. Carl Davis is a joke. And to the Yates family, it's time to let him go. The small school that we have right now, which is the size of a middle school, is Carl Davis's business. Carl, do you have a problem with what I'm saying? Would you like to call me a lie? I'm going to say 2 words to you where I know I'm not lying. Arva Howard. Yates alum. Attorney for a long time. The document you clowns went and signed, Miss Howard was there last night with us. And she broke them down. And what I see is exactly what that attorney sees. And she's looking at it from the eyes of an attorney. I'm looking at it from the eyes of a future attorney. Your document is not a legitimate document, dude. The way that it was done, because they're not used to dealing with public schools with these grants. Y'all didn't even know what you were signing. Y'all didn't even know that the document that you signed could be considered null and void in a court of law. You didn't know that the way that you went about things, that you may have violated IRS laws. You sure you want this smoke with me? Nah, you don't want it. Let me tell you what you're going to do, Mr. Davis. Or you can end up in a federal penitentiary. You're going to sit your muck ass down and we're going to get this field laid. And then Chump 88, them boys that was down with their homeboy, something they tried to get done from day one, they can stand out there and they can be proud of what happened. But if you continue to be in the front of this, with what I know, you'll have some IRS agents on your ass, boy. Know that. Don't come into our school system trying to mess over children, because now you're going to unleash the beast. And trust me, them suckers you down with, they don't want this, bro. Be careful what you wish for. So I need you to get back on the news and do what you normally do. Oh, Gary Monroe's angry. You goddamn right I'm angry. Because your idiocy, when it comes to reading a simple contract, has put us in a position that we should not be in. So how do you solve this? We know the problem. How do you solve this? I made a plea last night for the Houston Independent School District to step up to the plate and help us complete this project. The same way you could do it and give Bel Air High School $2 million to complete a baseball field. Why don't you help Yates High School to lay a football field? The same way through the bond program that we were in, that you could lay a turf field for Lamar High School. Why don't you help us lay a turf field for Yates High School? I'm not demanding. I'm just asking. You say it's about equity. Well, the black kids need something right now. And on our team, we got blacks, we got Latinos. Next year, we'll have white. Yeah. I can't wait to see him get out. Outside linebacker, tear their head off. Do what you do, Mr. Linebacker. You see what I'm saying? Why don't HISD come through and do what they need to do for the black kids for a change? We shouldn't be on the news talking about fields that look raggedy. We shouldn't be on the news like that, man. At the black schools, you can't even see the dimensions of the baseball diamond because it's covered, the infield is covered with grass, but that should be cleaned out. When are we going to take care of the black children in the Houston Independent School District? I don't want to hear nothing about they need to focus on academics. Well, some kids play athletics. And at certain high schools, they got everything they need athletically. But at some of ours, we don't have the bare necessities. You've crippled. And this is not this administration. This is the prior administration. You've crippled black athletics in the city of Houston and HISD. You crippled them for a reason, because the one team that did it, 1985 Texas State 5A football champions, the word was, this will never happen again. And you know what? They haven't won a state championship in football since 1985. It angered them that those black kids could show up in Texas Stadium and put a crucial ass whooping on Odessa Permian. And if you don't know who they is, the Friday Night Light Boys. We beat the brakes off their ass. Is it true that HISD is not in the kid business? They're in the real estate business. Is that true? This is a test from God. This is a test to see if you really give a damn about equity. It was no way in hell that I would have entered into a deal to raise $450,000 if I was on that committee. We can't raise $5,000 a year for scholarships. It's no way in hell I would have entered into a deal to raise $450,000 when we got kids that don't have coats. They come to school with blankets wrapped around them. It's no way in hell I would have entered into a deal for $450,000 of a matching grant when we have children that don't even have shoes to wear to school. We have kids that don't have clean clothes to wear to school. But this dude felt that was the need at the time. But the one thing that I don't like about it is you pimped George Floyd and the situation that he went through. I was bold enough to stand on the corner of 38 in Chicago and let him know he wasn't by himself. When the last time you've been to 38 in Chicago? When the last time have you felt the energy? When have you stood on that corner in the spot where Chauvin put his knee on George's neck? You didn't give a damn about George Floyd when you got into this. Herbert, Gerald, and Vaughn were trying to do something for their teammate. You brought those politicians into our house, Carl. So where are the politicians now? Doing what they normally do, shitting on the community. I'm going to leave you with this, Mr. Davis. One day you going to be something. But right now you ain't shit. I said what I said, Carl. One day you going to be something. But right now you ain't shit. And if you think that you're going to use Yates Senior High School to line your goddamn pockets, it will never happen. Tell these people what Arthur Howard knows that you did to our school during the PAT phase where we were trying to get the new one. You want to have that conversation? Bring your ass to the house and let's have it. But don't lie and say we won't come to a meeting. Don't lie and say that we don't want to help with the process because this was y'all shit. Ain't no way we can come in and overtake y'all shit. We should only come in like a deacon does to a pastor and enhance your vision. But you ain't shit, dude. And I could have talked about anything tonight, but I chose to talk about you. I'll be two things until the day I die. I'll be Gary W. Monroe, and I'll be a Jack Yates lion. And until God calls me home, I will protect Yates High School with everything in my power. I'm the 5-star general. This is the war zone. And I said what I said. Carl Davis, you ain't shit.